Welcome, everyone. You're listening to Nephology, the podcast dedicated to crypto, accounting, business, finance, and much, much more. I'm Joe David, the founder of Nephos Group in Minor. Please note that all conversations recorded are professional opinions, and if you'd like to know more or gain support, please reach out to the team directly. Now on to the next episode. Welcome everyone to the latest episode of the Nephology podcast. I'm delighted to welcome Cam from Dubai Young Professionals with me today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Nice Monday morning start
Lovely.
for us today.
Yeah, I don't know if you can say it's early. It's 10 a.m.
I think for Dubai it is.
Yeah, it's one thing that I was trying to get used to in Dubai is if you arrive on time, which I didn't arrive on time, just for the record. But everyone was like, you know it's Dubai, right? Don't arrive on time, which is surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone to a few events and arrived like on time for the event and been like, where the hell is everybody? And then you got to kind of like sit around and wait for half an hour before people actually turn up.
There's certain people that come to my events and they'll come at like 6:30. And the event starts for 7, so I feel like I have to be there at like 6 because you don't want to be the guy hosting an event.
And
somebody comes before you, like, oh hi, you kind of
Yeah, no, it is. But Dubai for me definitely seems like people don't want to do early. I say early mornings. I wouldn't even call like 9. I wouldn't even call 8 o'clock that early for a meeting. Like in the UK, I'd have 8 o'clock meetings all the time.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like mainly calls, maybe rather than face to face.
Sure.
But yeah, like I'd easily have.
Is that just with UK clients as well, or is it kind of international?
Yeah, that would just be UK. Like you know, I just feel like in the UK, I don't know how long. How have you been out of the UK?
Let's say just over 18 months now.
Okay, so not too long, but I don't know whether it's just. I don't know whether it's a UK thing.
I'll just say I get annoyed sometimes like back at home when somebody puts like a 8:30 meeting in. It's because my schedule's slightly different because I'll start and do the gym in the morning because the day is just like so long. I'm very difficult to squeeze it in. So if someone puts an 8:30 in the calendar, I'm like, I'm gonna have to wake up an hour earlier again.
Yeah, it is. A few people have said that to me about they start their day with the gym because the day does just get long because of time differences, and right now it's 3 hours to the UK,
which is good. I quite like when it's 3.
Will
when
be
it's
4.
It's weird to think 3 to 4 makes such a big difference.
But it does, yeah.
It does.
But even I was thinking even little things like the like I'll speak to the team in the office in the UK. They'll finish between 5 and 6. Like 6 o'clock finish for them is 10 o'clock at night. Like it's a late. Do you know what I mean? Like it's quite a late.
So how does that work at the moment then, in terms of the way that you're splitting your time? The way I understand it, you still have quite a big business presence in the UK. And what's the kind of goal with you being here? Are you shifting a lot of your activities here, or how's that?
Yeah,
working?
so I was actually talking to someone about this at the weekend. Like a lot of my meetings, a lot of what I do is still UK focused because I've come from the UK only 2 and a bit months ago.
Yeah.
And like was constantly in meetings, so they don't just stop overnight. Do you know what I mean? And you've got to get people in the right place to be able to take. Because all I really do is business development, client relationships.
Okay.
So you've got to get people in that place where they can do that instead, if that makes sense. So yeah, still do a lot of UK meetings, a little bit in like US time zones, but not too much, thankfully, because then it gets.
Yeah, that's what I was asking about time zone.
It gets crazy. Like one guy was where I think we're speaking to him this week, and he was really good about everything, and he was kind of like, 1 a.m. my time, yeah, no problem. We can do that. He was like, I'd rather do 1 a.m. than get up at 5 a.m. type thing, and I was like,
I was on a job that we were doing a proposal on for one of the Emirates here. They were trying to increase their tourism from 1 million to 3 million a year. And because of the way that the company I was working for was set up, we had teams from all over the world, and trying to align for a calendar invite was just crazy. So we had a team in the States, we were in Dubai, people from London, people from France. And when you work for a really international company and the value that you're driving is based on these experts being in different areas, like guys were coming on the call at 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's just, it's just wild.
Yeah, and especially like here's funny because obviously you kind of are in the center of the world, even though you may not be location wise. Like it does feel like that in terms of you can get on Australian Asian time zones, 100%. You can get on US time zones, but getting Australia, US, Europe, like you say, all on a call is just like it is hard work, but that's why I've got the wonderful Becky who you spoke to help liaise on all that.
I'm very envious. But going back to the point that you said about like, because this is where obviously I want to move to. You said that you kind of transitioned your role to a more of a BD focus, and we touched on it before when we spoke, right? What's that kind of journey from, you start the company and you do a lot of the work yourself to begin with? How do you find the right people and train them so that you trust them and put them in that role and incentivize them?
Really hard.
So that you can step away. Yeah, that's
like,
that's
I'm
the
not,
journey.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it is hard, and I wouldn't say we're completely there yet, and that's nothing against the people that we've got. It's more about me, and about me letting go.
Yeah.
And I said to someone yesterday, I don't want to be running a UK business from Dubai. That's not what I set out to do. I didn't move here to run a UK business from Dubai. Right.
Makes sense.
I moved here to grow internationally, to grow our offer. Like, if I wanted to leave the UK and run the business remotely, I could have gone anywhere. I could have gone to Lisbon or Caribbean, or do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to come to Dubai, and Dubai's not cheap, as you well know. So if you're going to go somewhere just to chill and run a UK business that's a bit more relaxed than the UK, then why here? If that makes sense. I think if you're going to come here, you come here to do business. You come here to I'm sure like you can work 24/7 in a place like this if you want to.
Yeah,
like,
it's one of the hardest things about being in Dubai is definitely that switching off. It's if someone's listening and it's like, oh yeah, it's like that in the UK, but there's just something underlying.
It's totally
there's
different.
Like a frequency constantly in Dubai. Like, I feel like the more I work, the more I actually get back. Whereas in the UK, I always say, not to slander the UK, it's an amazing place with different sort of things, but there is this feeling of just oppression constantly, and it's very difficult to get ahead, right? But in Dubai, I feel like the minute you actually start trying and you find your little channel, you're very much rewarded for it.
If you make the effort.
Yeah, if you make the effort, it rewards you for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree, and I think that's the thing for me is like I totally agree with what you're saying. People in the UK would go, "Oh, I'm always working." They're absolutely not. Like, and even weekends, like, I'm not saying everyone should have to work a weekend if they don't want to, but if people want to, that opportunity should be available to them, right? Yeah. So, the amount of times that I've said to people, even in just a few months I've been here, I'm back to back these days, but I'm around for a Saturday morning coffee if you fancy one. And hardly anyone ever says, "Oh no, I don't work weekends," or
so true.
And I'm very much like, "Oh, don't worry if you don't want to, that's fine. I totally understand. You don't have like," and they're like, "No, like we can, like, it is what it is. You and as you said, you get out what you put in."
Like yesterday, today just ended up being quite busy, and I spoke to you before this about the content strategy that we're putting in. Didn't even think that yesterday was a Sunday because you just work, right? So I said to the guys, "Do you mind meeting me on tomorrow or whatever?" I didn't reflect it was Sunday. And they're like, "Yeah, of course," and brought the whole team with us.
Yeah, like, it's mental, isn't it?
It's crazy. At home, you're not getting that on a Sunday. It's like, mate, no chance.
I just got BN Sports at home, and because like football's my one, like, outside of work, like, it's my one outside of work and kids.
Is that your escapism?
Yeah. I'm a Man United fan. Don't judge me on that.
No. You know what? I don't watch sports.
Oh, do you not?
Here, I've dabbled, like, over the years. I love watching sport and stuff, and I find it the same way as you do, like escapism and stuff. But coming here, I honestly don't even own a TV in my house anymore.
Really?
I've got a whiteboard, and everybody thinks I'm a psychopath.
I mean, that is a bit niche. I don't know many people that have a whiteboard instead of a TV.
Literally, where the TV should be, there's a whiteboard.
And what do you do? Just jot on their thoughts and...
Yeah, so basically, if I'm just like reading or something, at the moment I'm reading Alex Hormozy, 100 million leads. I think 100 million offers. Leads was released yesterday. And just like the insights there, I think is so valuable, but I need to really apply it to our business model because it's speaking about certain different things. So I'll just plot it out and look at, okay, how does that actually look to us? And then I'll have like 3 channels on the board. So it's like, what's the information he's provided? How does that look to us? And then how do we action it? I then just share that with my team, and they're like, they hardly replied, to be fair. Yeah. So I just use it as a log in the WhatsApp. Like, what was I thinking on that day?
9 o'clock at night on a Saturday, they're watching telly, you're scribbling on the whiteboard.
Yeah. James will often say, like, Saturday's his day off.
Yeah, okay.
Because James heads up, like, operations and partnerships now. And I'm like, just tell him he's weak because he takes a Saturday off. I'm just kidding, but like for him, he want, like, certain people want that time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's healthy, it's necessary, but like I just said earlier, when you find your channel, it's very difficult to come away from it.
Yeah, and I think, people talk about work-life balance. Balance can only be 50-50. That's the only thing that balance can be, right? Because things don't balance if they're not in equal size, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody can get a 50-50 work-life balance. You're always going to be tipping those scales one way or the other, right? Depending on your and so for me, it's not about work-life balance. It's about what I enjoy. It's about what I want to achieve. How do I want to spend my time? And if I want to spend my time 80% of it working, 20% of it not, and that's about a balance for me that I can deal with.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's the other way,
I'm so glad you said that.
Like,
one of the issues that I was finding in the UK was that I couldn't meet people like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because in the UK, right, if you work really hard and you're constantly doing stuff, everyone's like, "Why are you being such a weirdo?" Relax. And it's like, why do I have to feel alienated? But that's the one thing that Dubai gave me, because basically I came out here technically on my own when I was 17.
Oh wow.
I'll take it back a step. I was working for my family.
Yeah, we should probably start. We start with like introduction. Tell us about you.
I just get into it.
Yeah, no, we're all good. So why don't we do that? Like, go back to like roots.
I'll tell you kind of the story about Dubai, how I eventually got here. My family own a business back in the UK, and they've always been kind of entrepreneurial. From my granddad, my dad, my granddad's dad, my great grandfather, they've always had businesses, right? But my granddad started off a business in essentially meat catering, so servicing like hotels, hospitals,
in the
schools.
UK.
In the UK, yeah. And so I was always around this, and it was kind of like an easy way for me to get a job. So I was like, okay, I'll just work for you guys on the weekends, because I wanted to buy a car like every guy is 17.
Yeah.
But they were paying me £2.50 an hour, which is ridiculous, right? Even my dad's staff would laugh at me.
Should have taken them to our tribunal.
I think I should. Maybe it's still due, mate. Never say never.
Yeah.
So I remember I was being paid £2.50, and like the work was horrible, right? You'd wake up on a Saturday, you'd get a bus at maybe 6:30 in the morning in the winter as well. Like, it's already super dark. You get to the factory, and you've got to imagine, like, some of my tasks were just a massive box of livers, like pig livers, and just packing them for 10 hours straight.
Lovely.
And I was like, I don't know if I can do this for £2.50 anymore. Like any sane person would.
I'm not sure how much I would want for that job, but anyway.
At the end of the month, I think my insurance was costing me like £200 a month. I don't know how much I was paying, but essentially I had 30 quid left after working Saturday and Sunday packing livers. Imagine. You've got 50 quid left, and I'm only running like a Vauxhall Corsa at this point. So I went to my grandmother. I was like, listen, this is too low. She always like handles the finances within the company. She's always been that person, which no matter to the level they've scaled, she's always had. If we go there, she'll have a stack of invoices and go, why did you spend 50 quid on pens? I'm just thinking to myself, the oversight is crazy. So I already knew going into that conversation it was going to be a challenging one. I need a pay rise because I can't sustain a life. I've got no life outside of school, Monday to Friday school, and then that. And she was just like, "You're backing up the wrong tree. It's £2.50 or nothing." Maybe it went to £3.50 at one point, but I was adamant it should have been £5. £5 or I'm leaving. Yeah.
That was your value of yourself.
Yeah. Crazy. So I had a conversation with my dad. I said to him, listen, if it's not £5, Grandma said she's not going to put it to a fiver. I'm going to have to look for other options. And I remember I was applying for jobs, and I was just applying for like the worst jobs ever. I was thinking I just need to make a statement here that I'm not going to be messed around, basically. And I ended up taking a role with Royal Mail on the answer phones.
Okay. I
remember on my induction, this just threw me completely. They said, so every Friday you get a therapy session because the calls are so intense. And I was like, wow, okay.
That's like your first day. And
first day, yeah.
By the way, you're going to need therapy every week.
Yeah. I was like, surely not. Anyway, get into the job, first week's done. And some of the calls were just crazy. So you got to imagine, I'll give you an insight into one of the calls. Basically, I had a call come through. It was an older lady who said she was expecting her medicine.
All right.
but she'd missed a delivery, and she was on the phone saying that she was going to die in the next 24 hours if that medicine isn't at her door. So that's like an insight into kind of the extreme cases that you have to deal with.
Yeah, and I guess you don't really realise that if you're not in that environment. You just think someone's not got a letter from the council.
Exactly, yeah.
You know,
the calls that were coming through, and to be honest with you, I definitely wasn't prepared for it. They do some training and stuff. But what it did give me was like this really good insight in terms of handling people when their emotions are really high, and eventually ended up in restructuring, right? Which it was already a really good foundation for me.
Yeah.
But like trying to handle some of these calls and, you know, the therapy sessions, it was by the end of my second week, I'd heard back that I'd placed in Cardiff Uni to do accounting and finance, which I always wanted. I said to myself, this is going to sound bad, but I said if I wouldn't get into one of the Russell groups, I'd just continue a career. Because in my mind, I was like, it's that or nothing really. I'd rather just start my career. So I had the news probably like the 10th day, and you can imagine all these calls were just terrible.
Yeah.
And I'd heard about this place, Dubai. I was like, it wasn't that big then. You got to consider it was 10 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
But my family are massive on traveling. It's super competitive. My grandmother, she's done 90 countries odd now. Wow. So yeah, it's just crazy. And she spoke to me once, and she said she went to this place, and it was like £30 for a coffee or something. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, if somebody's prepared to spend £30 on a coffee, what kind of money is in that place?
Yeah.
So I'm 10 days into this job. It's absolutely, yeah, that's not 30 quid.
No, it was definitely more than I would have paid in the UK. But anyway.
How much was it?
I can't remember now. But
not 30.
It was probably about £8 or something.
Okay.
Which in the UK, you probably get that for what, £3?
Yeah, that's what they don't tell you. That's what they don't tell you on the guide.
It wasn't £30.
So she told me it was £30 for a coffee, and I was 10 days into this job. Just had the news that I wanted. I'd been placed in Cardiff, which was huge to me. And I was like, you know what, I need to go there. So in the second week, I basically had my second pay, and I think I had I can't remember the money, but let's just say £1,000 for round numbers. It wouldn't even be in that much, but I had 1,000, let's say. I was like, I'm just gonna book it for next week. So I handed my notice, and that day I was like, I'm leaving on the second day. So I hadn't formally had my first therapy session yet. I missed out.
You were that desperate to leave. You were like, I'm going to Dubai just to get out of this therapy.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not having therapy at 17 to do my job. There's no way.
I mean, that is mental.
Yeah. So I flew out, and I remember I came and I was staying just behind Mall of the Emirates.
Yeah.
And the first thing that I remember, I landed, it was late in the evening, and I was like, I need food. And so I went down, and been on holiday with the family and stuff before. I was like, where's the best place to go for food? Hands me an iPad, and she's like, order off that. I'm thinking, what is this place? What is this place? And I remember, I don't even like Pizza Hut, but I ordered Pizza Hut and a cookie. And I'm sat there waiting, like, do I go downstairs? Does he knock the door? What am I doing? And the guy just knocks my door, and he hands me the food within 30 minutes. I'm like, immediately, I've been here 1 hour. My mind's blown. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then after that, kind of just went around, and I remember just had a selfie stick. And I was stood outside the Burj Khalifa.
Yeah.
Just trying to get me and the Burj in the shot. And it was just me walking on the boulevard, like just constantly, when's it going to come into shot?
Yeah.
I remember that, and in the Dubai Mall, they've got the aquarium, and you can go into the tank.
Yeah.
I had 70 quid left for the trip, and I had another day. But I spent my last 70 to go into that tank, and I'll never forget. I was like, just the experiences going on the safari and everything. But being 17, I also knew that this place, you need something behind you.
So you're totally on your own?
I was with a girl, but we weren't serious. We were just friends.
Yeah, okay. But two of you at 17 coming somewhere like this.
Exactly, yeah. And so I was like, I already knew if I came here at 18, wasn't the right time. I felt execute on the studies, see what happens after. I also knew that like at 17, I was more arrogant than the average person. Like I was very cognizant of that as well, because the way that my friendship group back at home, it was very much alpha male driven.
Like that laddie type
culture. It was just terrible environment, and it just brought the worst out of me.
Yeah.
So already kind of knew that I had a lot to go and work on myself. So I was like, I'll do uni and just be from home, meet other people, and grow instead of just going into the next big challenge. And everybody sees it different, right? So at the end of that, I had the best time in uni. Genuinely met like the craziest people in terms of just humble.
So you went to Cardiff?
Cardiff, yeah. Just met my friends there.
Yeah.
Really grounded, humble people. And then after that, I was just set on being an investment banker.
Oh, really?
I was just so set on going into investment banking.
What was that about? Was that money, or was it like the
it was money. It was money driven, and I feel that a lot of guys who end up in and around the realm of finance always want to do M&A, right? M&A,
doing deals.
Doing deals.
I'm the same.
That's it, isn't it? If you speak to anyone, right, any dude is like, I want to be M&A.
I just love doing deals.
I love deals, especially when you've negotiated over a while. Get that handshake. It's such a win.
I love it. Yeah, the buzz of No, it's funny you say that because I've never really thought about it. But I actually, as in, I've always said to people, I just love that's why I like business development. Sorry, I'm jumping on your story now.
It's fine. We'll carry on.
That's why I love business development because I love the kind of the challenge, the chase. You know, let's have that conversation. Can we get it over the line? You know, and then when I've got someone at the moment who's they're ghosting me, and I'm a bit like, right.
See, one thing that someone told me about this, particularly like doing business and deals, and specifically like dating, there's so many analogies and similarities that you can draw from it. Like you just mentioned ghosting, right? In a business situation, you can apply that very much to like the dating environment. But yeah, like met some good people there. So at the end of my second year, I'd say first year was more relaxed, although I still scored really highly. I didn't really take it as seriously. Second year, I already knew I was just like, I want to make sure that I don't regret this. Because what happened to me, did really well GCSEs, became complacent, my A-levels, I didn't really study, but I'm not one of those guys that can get by without studying. For me, I need to spend time and really study it. I envy those guys. I know guys that will just literally just turn up and
I would say though that I don't know whether you feel like this, but like I did GCSEs, did okay, but I'm not stupid, but I'm not naturally like clever. If that like as in like I've got to work. I can understand stuff when I work through it, but I'm not just gonna go boom like that right and get it. So I did GCSEs, I did A levels, AS levels it was when I did it, failed that. Did the AS again, failed again, and was just like, because I just didn't turn up to school, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I didn't do anything, didn't do A levels, didn't do university, anything. But the point I was trying, when I then did like ACCA and my accounting stuff, I had to work really fucking hard to do it. But what I think that then did for me was I was lazy at 18, right? I didn't give a shit. Like you can ask my dad, like I'd lie on the sofa,
get him on the phone,
playing on the PlayStation. Do you know what I mean? Like you know, just didn't really care. And that was the same at school. Whereas when I then found a passion, I worked hard at it. It made me then want to work hard in the rest of my. So my point is, I feel like if you're naturally gifted, you quite often find people get complacent because they're naturally like just talented, or they're naturally, you know, kind of like it comes easy to them. Whereas for people like us, where you've got to work hard to achieve something because you don't just get it like that.
I think studying is different. When you're in the business world, it is quite often that you have to grind, right? But I've had this challenge for quite a while now in terms of complacency. Yeah. And I've spoke to a few people about the way that I'm now approaching it, because I'm speaking to a guy that he was going through a rough time, came to me, and I could see a lot of similarities in the way that he'd approached life to the way I was in the UK. I set short-term goals to give me the motivation to see it's kind of an instant reward. 3-6 months, you've achieved your goal. But what happens is you set the bar relatively low for yourself. So once you achieve it, I feel that you start to become complacent. And that's what happened to me in the UK, because I was working at EY. I was 24, or bought my house. I was a chartered accountant. I was on fast track to director. My life was laid ahead of me. I knew exactly what I was going to do. And 2 or 3 months before coming out to Dubai, I just wasn't in the right gear. I was in gear 1, just coasting. you know, if you're somebody who thrives off challenge and success, gear 1 is the last place you want to be, right?
Yeah, it basically feels like you're going backwards.
Yeah. That's how it feels. So the way that I'm now approaching it is, yes, set the short-term goals, but as well make sure that the mountain is high enough that you're constantly looking up to the peak.
It's really funny because like one of my biggest issues is my goals are too big, in a sense, right? I've got such high aspirations and high goals, and I've got nothing in the middle.
Okay.
So I'm the opposite. I'm constantly feeling like a failure, if that makes sense, because I'm
Yeah.
always like, that's
do
the
know what you
goal,
mean.
and I can't get there, and
Yeah.
I've got nothing in between to get me to that point. So
Yeah.
rather than getting complacent, I work harder, or I work, or I sometimes I say work harder, but sometimes, quite often, sometimes not smarter. I'm just like, well, I've got to work because the only way I'm going to get there is by working. So you do the opposite. Do you know what I mean? You can be complacent and do nothing, or achieve nothing, and you can also work really hard and achieve nothing because you're not focused.
It's crazy you say that, like productivity. Like sometimes I go back to what you've just said there. Sometimes I'm like, this is not productive, but I feel like I need to be doing it. I don't know where that comes from. It's so strange.
Yesterday I was sat. My missus wanted to watch the England Women's World Cup, which I wasn't overly fussed on myself, but so I was like, yeah, no problem. Just means I can do a bit of work, and I'm sat there like updating records on our CRM because I it's a job that needs doing at some point, and I was kind of like, well, I've got nothing else to do. Like, I feel like I'm actually doing something, like, which is absolutely
it's crazy.
Like,
I shared a video on my story which just resonated with me so much this week, or last week now. And it's something that I've really struggled with a lot of the time. And it was like, this guy said he tries not to start his workday until he's in the office, because when he's at the breakfast table, he's thinking of the office. When he's in the office, he's thinking of the beach. When he's in the beach, he's thinking of the office. I was like, that is literally the situation I'm constantly in. When I'm working, like, and it's getting hard, I'm not saying that constantly, but you're like, oh, I wouldn't mind chilling out now. You're chilling out, you're thinking about working.
Yeah.
And then he was like, that's so messed up. And I completely agree, because I've been like that since the longest time I can remember.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. You do, not crave for the work time to finish, but you kind of think, oh, this is what will happen when work finishes. Yeah. And then when work does finish, you're thinking back to it. So
it's wild, and that's the one thing that I would really like to work on from like a personal level, because if you're working so hard and the people that you love are around you seeing you work hard and they don't really share the same mentality, they just want to spend quality time with you, right? And I've been here before, and it's just like you kind of neglect them because you're so focused on that, and then when you're with them, to be actually present.
Oh yeah. So
that's the one thing that I know for me I need to work on, because it's slipped big time.
Same with me and my kids. You know, I've got 7, nearly 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, just 5-year-old, and you know, like yesterday, for example, took them down to the pool yesterday afternoon, late afternoon. My missus quite happily will leave her phone in the apartment, go to the pool, like not even a care in the world about the fact that her phone's not with her.
Yeah.
Right? I have to take mine down with me. I'm in the pool for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then I'm like, I better just go and check my phone. It's Sunday at like 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, why do I need to check my phone? Like, there's absolutely, but I have to have it. I have to have that. And like you say, you're not present, because I've got to get out the pool.
Yeah. We
might be halfway through messing about. I've got to get out the pool, go and look at my phone to make sure nothing crazy is going on, to then get back in the pool. Or, you know, like, it's just like,
it's a life that you've almost subscribed to.
Yeah.
You have to accept that. I think it's that doesn't go away, but it's like, if you spend a lot of money and you make time to go abroad, or this is family time, this is you and I, and actually being there. And I think that where I am in my life now, I'm still young, and I'm constantly thinking ahead in terms of the person that I want to be. And I've seen issues that I've had in the past where it's so unhealthy that I haven't seen my mum for ages. She's with me in Dubai. I literally said to her, like, if you're coming to Dubai, I was just so busy at that point and I couldn't step away. So obviously, as a part around communication, I said, I'm going to be working like hell, right? I'll make time in the evenings, weekends, we'll do stuff. Weird thing happened. Mum is a very driven individual, but she ended up writing a book in that 2 weeks that she was in Dubai.
No way.
Yeah. So when I say don't have a TV in your apartment, it goes a long way. Whiteboard, mate, it worked.
Yeah.
So she launched a book on menopause, actually, and she's been studying a lot around like herbal remedies and stuff, as opposed to using hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
So she got that book together. I proofed it. A couple of our friends proofed it and just launched it on Amazon.
Wow.
So
fair play.
Yeah, just things like that. But in terms of, like, if I look at past relationships, and you know, a lot of my work previously meant that I wasn't in Manchester. I was living in Manchester, but a lot of the work that we were doing for the restructuring, they would be in rogue locations.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of actually manufacturing stuff and that going on in the heat of the city, because you'd have a lot of them in the suburbs and stuff like that.
Need big warehouses.
Exactly. Yeah. These are the companies that usually do fail in liquidity. Service-based businesses with low overheads, you can really change the business model quite quickly.
Yeah.
And make sure you're managing cash, right? So it's just like in completely random places. Scunthorpe being like one of the main places. So I would literally take a train Sunday evening, go out to Scunthorpe, work there until Friday. By the time I came back, I was just so tired. And then Saturday, I would say it was just getting like personal admin done, washing the clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Sunday, you're already gearing up to go again.
Go back to work. Yeah.
So it was just a very difficult position to be in. But reflecting on that, I would say that Saturday, just be in the right frame of mind and be present, you know, instead of just already thinking about, okay, tomorrow I'm going again. Especially if you're working for someone as well, like really reflect on what you're sacrificing.
Yeah, and that is definitely a big thing. Is like, if you work for yourself, if you're trying to build something, I say for yourself, and that's funny, right? Because everyone uses the phrase "you're working for yourself" or "you're building for yourself," but very often people aren't building for themselves; they're building for other people, whether that's family
100%.
or whatever else it might be, right? You know, as much as I'm, doing what I do because I want to be successful, I want my family to enjoy that success as well. Also, my team, I want my team to enjoy success, and all those. Like, genuinely, I don't want to pay people £2.50 an hour.
My guy. I'll get my nan on the pod.
So if you want a job,
you got me. Yeah.
So it is. People say like working for yourself, but when you're working for another company, there definitely feels a disconnect between you and the business, unless you are brought into what the bigger picture. And we try and do that. We try and bring people. And I find it like. Annoying is the wrong word, but I'm like, I don't understand why people don't have the same vision as me sometimes in the business, because I'm like, we're all in this together, guys. Come on, but they're probably thinking in their head, you say that, but you run the show, so are we all in it together, or like? And I'm like, yeah, of course we are. But how do they? Do you know what I mean? That it's a hard trying to bring people into that.
That's it, and I think I've just been really lucky with the two people that I've identified in Dubai. Like Ben, he had some technology stuff, and now James is coming on board a little bit stronger. So for me, if I'm looking for people to come into my business, where we are right now, it's more like, I need you to think outside the box and cover the areas that I'm not thinking about. And these two complement me so perfectly. Yeah,
that's what you want.
And
you definitely need that. You need people to challenge. Yeah. As well as like, work through things together positively. You also need people to go, I don't think that's the best solution for this, or especially for you guys, you might be like, this venue for this reason or whatever, and then you want other people to go, oh yeah, but if you thought about this venue, and you might just really like the venue, you might be like, I'd love to host something there, it's just something you'd wanted to do, but actually then they come in and they go, yeah, but practically, is that the right place? Or
that's it. I think they're only incentivized if in the right way. You have the incentivization behind it needs to make sense, and that's where I'm moving towards now, because if I reflect on them as individuals, it goes back to your point, right, in terms of they want to win and they have families of their own, rent to pay and stuff like that. So I'm thinking it's completely unfair of me to take the entire award.
Totally.
We're just trying to structure that now where it makes sense, because of where I want to take it. I need these guys on fully, almost, and like really locked into it.
And you're on 100% of nothing, or X% of something much bigger.
Exactly.
And that's it is hard. And we'll touch on DYP in a sec, but it is hard giving up. So we've just given two senior members of the team just start this year some shares in the UK business, because I needed, I wanted to incentivize them. I wanted to reward them for their hard work, but I wanted them to be 100% bought in. Yeah. Talk to them, but even giving away a small percentage in the business is really hard.
It's so hard.
And I'm like, but I need to, because that's the right thing to do. And but giving that up in a sense is so hard. And I imagine you're going to find that
That's where I'm at right now, actually. So we're constantly, we're not constantly, we're just discussing it at the moment and what that looks like and the caveats around what I expect from them, you know, because essentially giving a part of the business where if I think of what I've had to do in my spare time outside of work to get it to where
and what
it
you
is.
will still have to do.
Exactly, yeah. I trust in both of them, but I just know that life is, and you can throw a curveball at any moment, right?
And how, like you say, you trust them, you know them, but how, like, it's always that challenge of, do they have the same mentality as you? Do they have the same
when push comes to shove? Where's their priorities? Yeah,
and that's challenge. So let's touch on that. Then DYP, like what made you decide to start DYP? What's it all about?
Yeah.
You clearly have taken the word young to an extreme, because I'm definitely not.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe just talk a little bit about
Sure.
DYP, what it's about, and why we're.
Sure. Okay. Moved to Dubai, 31st of December 21. Super excited. I was like, okay, let's see what this place is about. Within 2 weeks of arriving, I was immediately like, where's my group of people? I need to meet some people. Because I didn't want to be in a situation. I was in Manchester, didn't have many friends there because of my work-life balance in terms of having to be away. So I'm going to address that immediately. I was on my phone looking for events. I just couldn't find anything. But what I hadn't acknowledged was because it was at the back of COVID, there were really strict regulations around running events.
Right.
So imagine me here, entrepreneurial anyway. I've had different businesses thinking, the most expat dance place on the planet doesn't have a networking event. You know, I was looking through, I don't know if people dropped their ad spend and stuff because there was no point, but it was really difficult for me to find anything that competed with the vision that I had.
Yeah.
So I was thinking to myself, this is just an amazing opportunity. But it was not in the sense of making a business from it. Initially, I'll come on to that, but initially it was just like, I need to build relationships in this market if I want to go where I want to go. So why don't I just bring people to me instead of trying to find them? And then set up the company, started seeing that it's expensive to set a company up here, which I didn't really foresee.
Yeah.
It started right. I think I spent 30K in the end or something because I did it myself. Obviously, if you use a consultant, it's way more expensive. But the funniest thing is, like, what they say goes here.
Yeah.
I wrote down on a piece of paper to the Emirati in the government office, whatever it was called, I can't remember now. He said, "What do you want your company to be called?" Wrote it down on a piece of paper, handed it to him. He registered it on the computer. I took it away, paid the fee, looked at my paperwork. He wrote it wrong.
No.
Yeah, so I went back. This is the funny bit. He said 300 dirhams to change.
Yeah.
Dude, I've just given you that piece of paper to register the company. So what I eventually started to see that after a couple of months of actually running the events, the government started to relax a lot of the regulations, the laws around running events and stuff. I just wasn't aware of it, and I kind of think it was a blessing in disguise almost, because when I was doing my analysis and really comparing what was out there, I spotted the BBG, and over time started to, I would say we have a working relationship together. One of the things with BBG, I would say, is that the average age is 52. I think somewhere around there. And what the biggest issue for me is, if you go to a networking event, is this feeling of it's still very corporate.
Yeah.
And we're still a long way from channeling the vision that I have in terms of how people connect. The way that we've started, almost, I feel that we have played the safe card. We've played, let's do the social events, let's do the wellness, let's do the educational stuff. But then 2 weeks ago, I would say, I really was like, listen, guys, we've almost created a market within a market, and we're starting to dominate that space. But we now need to evolve and really understand what our community wants. And you remember, I sent out a survey, right?
Yeah, I did it.
That's why I was like, I really need to understand what is the sentiment within the community and what do they associate with our brand. I was really surprised that the people were still ranking as quite highly for fun, because, you know, there's a lot of things in the roadmap that is, you know, a lot funner than what we're doing, but it was good to see that people already associated as quite strongly. But yeah, in terms of like where we want to take the brand now, is really honing in on why I started. Because if I think about it, it's like, let's not do the very corporate and boring stuff, although that will always be the glue that brings people together. How can we actually help people form more authentic relationships? And it goes back to the way that I do business is very different to the way someone else might do business, because for me, I do business on trust and knowing that that individual is, although I need to see merit, that they're worthy of that contract or that they can deliver. But above all, I need to know that they're an authentic person and they have the right values, which align to me.
Yeah.
And that's the way that I've always tried to set our events, even though a lot of the things that we can improve, which I appreciate, it's you come to our event and you try and form an authentic relationship, and then it will evolve into business. And like the way that we're taking the technology now with the app, and that will evolve over time as we have more money and stuff, because apps are super expensive, which I already knew, but like the smallest tweak was $8,000.
I was going to say, and that's the thing, you go, oh, how much is it to build an app? X. And you're like, oh, okay, fine, I can deal with that. It's expensive, but I can deal with that. And then it's everything else around that. It's not just that. Same with me though, visas I found as well. You're like, oh, the visa's not that bad. And then when you build in everything else that comes with it, it's like, it adds up and up and up.
It's crazy.
Yeah, same with the app. Yeah. So that's coming out
That's
soon.
coming out on the 31st. And the intention for the app is we have 3 main channels that I'm focusing on now. And I want the app to house everything over time as we evolve. And the 3 main channels are business. So your ability to connect on there, find each other, see what their interests are, what threads are they commenting on, what discussions, what documents are they uploading, how are they contributing to the community. Career is another element that we're focusing on. So educational, online courses, as well as a mixture of in-person. But as well, we're looking at building out a recruitment platform. That's a game changer in the way that it's going to be delivered. I won't talk too much about it now because it's sensitive. And then lifestyle. So lifestyle is almost something I feel like I may have approached incorrectly to begin with, because what I wanted the lifestyle app to be was something that may compete with a Privily or an Entertainer in terms of the offering. And then I realized that why are we trying to be like other people? Like we shouldn't. Why we're trying to do too much now? Like we haven't even really solidified our position at doing what we're supposed to be known for. So the lifestyle is, in my mind, evolved in the sense that we have so many founders in the community, and we can now begin to offer a platform for them to promote their business through our lifestyle. So lifestyle for me is anything that you do outside of work, right? It doesn't have to be going to a restaurant, going to a club. It can be anything, right? And the lifestyle will also house like business services, a lot of business services, because essentially that's what we are, right? Why in my mind do I feel like that's going to offer a lot more value? If it comes, it comes. The food and beverage stuff, but I think people want us because they can't find those offers, right?
100%. Like if you say, if you want to go on Entertainer, you can download Entertainer, pay the fee, whatever it is. It's not even that much in the grand scheme of things. Like, so what are you going to do? Are you going to be cheaper? Like, because you've got to do something to take people away from using Entertainer, for example. So you've got to be cheaper. So then you're like, well, if you've got to be cheaper, what's the point? You've got to build such a huge
infrastructure.
So I totally agree. You've got to do something. We actually work really closely with I mentioned, I don't know if we were on air or off air, but we mentioned, I think we were off air, but when we did it, I mentioned that we did a podcast a while ago. We talked about NFTs and OpenSea and blah, blah. So they're a group called Drunken Monkey Members Club. Which is quite a cool name. And cool. They're like an NFT gated concierge type app, for example, and they will just do London, Dubai, and other cities around, and their whole focus is around that concierge piece. But their differentiator is you don't need to constantly pay every year to be part of this concierge community. You can just buy your NFT. As long as you're a holder of the NFT, you get access to these services. So they're doing it slightly differently, if that makes sense, from that industry. But if I was someone like you, I'd be looking at maybe plugging into someone like that rather than creating my own, if you know what I mean. Because what's the point? Like, there's all these tools out there, and I'm not saying Entertainer is the exact one that you would do, but why not talk to Entertainer, for example, and be like, let's plug some of their offers into what we're doing rather than rewriting a rule book on it.
Yeah, and it goes back to understanding what your core offering is. And I think not that I lost sight of it. It was almost like, why are we doing all of these things and spreading ourselves?
But it's that entrepreneurial excitement.
Yeah. You want to do everything.
Yeah, you just want to be the best of the best.
Yeah. Everything, whatever it is, I'll challenge you.
Yeah. So
unhealthy mindset.
Yeah,
though,
no, it
you have
is.
to be like, that's the priority. Deliver that and move on.
I'm exactly the same. I just want to be the best of everything.
Yeah.
And I want to offer all these different services. When, like you say, the main core focus is you deliver this.
Yeah.
When you've delivered that, okay, you might be able to then move on to something else, but deliver that at absolute utmost. And I'm really bad at that. Our guy that runs our UK office, he's very good at keeping me grounded on stuff like that, because I'm like, let's run and do all of these crazy things, and he's like, whoa, let's perfect this part. We've still got
That's goes back to like why James is quite good with me, in the sense that when we were in, like, before launching the membership, I had a concept which would be the entry level, and then a significant premium for people that I would identify as they want a crowd of authenticity, but they also want to be in something a little bit more exclusive. It's the buy right. And as part of that, I just wanted to immediately launch NFTs because I knew it was hot at the time. I knew people that were already minting quite cheap. I'd had a quote and everything. But what that really looked like, you think of all these different things that you can do. But I think the skill as an entrepreneur that I'm starting to learn as I get deeper into it is actually, like we just said, what is the thing that's going to drive your top and bottom line? Or
100%.
manage that. You have to manage that before you really look at bringing the fancy things in, which we all want to do, right?
We launched an NFT.
Did you?
Yeah.
What was the strategy behind it?
Well, there was a really, I say really good. I came up with it, so I would say really good. But there was the strategy behind it was around building a community, a professional services type community, if you know what I mean. So bringing in people bringing our clients with, so they could collaborate, and, if someone was raising money and we had clients that were VCs, they could easily kind of get access to each other, things like that. And then we were going to, we would host events. We would, again, a bit like similar in a way to what you do with the coffee morning, in that you'd host an event and you'd have a speaker, and the community could vote on the speaker, or, whatever it may be. And then it was, you could get some discounts on our services, and we, like I say, we bring in who we believe as trusted partners. So if you were like, I need support for my crypto business, and I don't know, I know that these guys are the best at accounting, but I don't know a lawyer.
Yeah.
You could ask us, or you could just go to our directory and speak to one of our lawyers. You get a discount by going through our services, but the point is, we never really fleshed it out, and we never really actually did any of that I just talked about. We just launched an NFT, and didn't have any of these additional. We were like, oh, you can come into our Discord and you can ask us chat. You can chat to us about your issues, like tax issues, things like that. But then the team are like, well, I'm really busy, and now you want me to monitor a Discord channel? Like, I'm not a Discord moderator. Like, I'm trying to do tax returns. So then you're like, well, I thought it was a really good idea, but actually giving people access to ask you questions 24/7 is not necessarily a really good idea. So, like, we never really thought it through. Now, will we do something like that again? Like, we probably will look at how we do something better in the future. Like, absolutely. But we would think it through much more than just launching an NFT, because, like you said, NFTs were the buzz, and we're a crypto firm, and we want to be in NFTs.
What is the situation at NFTs now? Because the way I was monitoring it almost, and just trying to see, like, how is that going to evolve over time?
Yeah.
The last time that I was within that space and talking to people, the last thing that I really took away from it is, do not launch an NFT now unless it's got significant utility.
Yeah.
And that was the last point that I looked at it, and I was thinking, all these people minting and stuff, and the leveraging social media and things like that, and really using their personal brand to just boom these NFTs.
Oh, yeah.
That was it. And then, where is it now then?
I mean, it's a similar spot in that, you're not just going to launch an NFT with an image and expect people to buy it now.
Okay.
You're gonna, and you're not even gonna, in my opinion, you might get some short wins if you get a few influencers to pump it. But in reality, a lot of influencers won't go anywhere near them these days. After what happened with FTX, and people like Tom Brady were on adverts for FTX, right? And
crazy.
But there's no reason they weren't to know. They would, if someone said to you, like, I've asked you to come on this podcast, right? So you're now talking with me, so therefore, kind of helping me be credible, right?
I could, if I'm the biggest fraudster in the world and I defraud a load of people, in a year's time, should you be sued because you're on a because you appeared like
hard,
what are
isn't
you
it,
supposed to do? Ask me for my financials before you turn like. So you can't expect all of these influencers to do the amount of due diligence, especially for firms that size. So I think you'll always be able to get the lower level influencers doing it, but now getting high level because they're getting sued for things that they couldn't have possibly known about. It is much harder for to get influencers. So to really pump an NFT project now is going to be really, really difficult. So the one thing you need is huge utility. I have always said that NFTs are one of the greatest things to exist if they're done properly. Like if you can use them for membership access, if you can use them to gate access into community or gate access to for example, let's say Cristiano Ronaldo, let's say he launches, he has got an NFT, but let's say he launches an NFT and there's 10 of those NFTs, let's say he launches 100. One of them means you can spend a year, living in Saudi and following him around, right? And 10 mean that you get access to the games at Al Nassr, 50 mean that you get a meet and greet within one. I'm making it up, right? That gives something then to people to go, okay, so unless I own one of those 100, I don't get access to that, and there'll be no more. It's only ever 100, and I don't get. So if you then come along and you go, I'm like the biggest Ronaldo fan, and you missed the initial mint, and I've done my year of meeting and greeting, I'm like, it was incredible, but now I'm done. I might then go, well, do you want it? And you go, yeah, I'm quite happy to pay for that because I love this guy. I like to be able to meet him. Like,
I see what you're saying.
That's incredible. Like, I would never get that opportunity anywhere else. So how much do you value that? Oh, okay, you value that at 10 grand. Okay, well, I bought it for 5. So I'm now happy because I've got my utility. I've used it. I've done everything I wanted to do. And then I've made a profit. Or even you could even sell it for the same price because you've got all of that benefit outside of it.
Yeah.
You then do it, years time, maybe Ronaldo's a bad example because obviously his career is more towards the end than at the start, but Mbappe maybe is one of the biggest footballers that's out there, right? Young guy, so 2 years time, he's even better. He now plays for Real Madrid or whatever, and he's like this bit, and you get to, do you see what I mean? So it's probably...
I think the way that I would approach it, and because it goes back to when you do too many things, we launched DYP points, right? And the initial approach was just so confusing, and it was just very difficult for me to even monitor and have a conversation about how do you earn them and how do you redeem them. So going back to the NFT situation, I think if we were to do it again, I think it would be tied to one or two main things. It would be 1, you'd get access to certain events, and 2, you might get something else. Instead of launching that and confusing the consumer, it's tied direct. Like Gary Vee did something, right? It was just for an event, right?
Like ticketing. Ticketing is a perfect way to, for example, and this is a good example, I think. So last week at the bowling event, in the end I couldn't make it, right? So I had to ask you for a refund, or I had to lose the money, one way or the other, right? So whereas if that was an NFT, and I could just literally say, anyone that is in the community, I can transfer this to your wallet right now, and you can just go on my behalf. I could sell it, or I could just give it. Like all of a sudden, but how do I transfer my ticket on your platform? If I agreed with somebody else that they could go in my place, how do you manage that?
You just have to say your name.
But do you know what I mean? Like it's not foolproof, right?
No, it's not.
So whereas if that was an NFT, I could just transfer that straight to your wallet immediately. You've got the ticket, you show it at the door, you walk in.
Yeah. How quickly can you mint an NFT?
Oh, like you could mint one now.
Yeah. Okay. And someone was saying, how much are they now?
Oh, like if you depending on the blockchain you use, you can mint one for pennies.
Pennies, yeah.
Like if for what you want. So yeah, it's the Stephen Bartlett's company, Third Web. You can do it. I did it on there just to mess about and see how it worked, and it was like the easiest thing. And like if I can do it, I'm not even that technical. Like it was really, really, really easy. So it is possible, but you've either got to do something where the NFT is a side note to what you're doing. So, for example, people sign up to DYP. It doesn't matter. They don't care about the NFT, but you give it to them, for example, because there's benefit to them having it for your business, right? So then they don't have to think about, like if you said to all the DYP members now, you either buy our NFT or you're out, most people will probably be out, right? Because they wouldn't know how to do it. They wouldn't be bothered. Like it's hassle. So you've got to say, actually, all the DYP people will handhold you to get in on board. We'll get someone like Joe to help you on board into the crypto world, and we'll airdrop you this NFT. Now you've got this NFT. We'll show you how you can use it. We'll show you how you can, interact with the community. Blah 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 blah. Because if you do it the other way, it's not going to work. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to have buy-in from other people.
So what we were looking at is, once we do the more premium offering, we would have something with an NFT under that, because the premium offering, the way I see it at the moment, I don't think I would charge a price for the events, and they would be super exclusive events, right? It would only be these group of people. So maybe they just have an NFT to get access, and if they wanted their friend to go instead of them, which we would allow, they could just share the NFT for that evening. And because we would have trust in this group of people that they're of a certain caliber, that we wouldn't really be overly concerned, because the price point that you're talking, you've already kind of
committed to. And that's where my biggest thing is, like, say, football season tickets. So I had a season ticket for Man United for a year, and I travelled from Cheltenham, which is not far from where you were at uni, and up to Manchester. Lovely place. And we'd go on first of all we drove, and then we went on a minibus, and you're spending days and traveling, because by the time it's 5-6 hours by the time, because you leave early to get there early to blah blah blah. Weekday games, you'd leave work. So I was working as well when I had the season ticket. You'd have to leave at like 2 to go up to the game in the evening, and then you'd get back at like 4 a.m. with the traffic and the road closures, and blah, blah, blah.
I couldn't do that.
Right. So
that's a huge commitment.
Me and my missus had some serious issues at that time. But anyway,
that's why you're in Dubai, to stop you from doing that.
But it's funny
because
I got to go to Milan, so I went to the San Siro to watch United play Milan. So there was some really, really good, and I went with my dad, and that was really, really good. And so there was some really, really, and I went to some really good, like, the away games were the best games, because you get to go and soak in the atmosphere and blah blah. Anyway, so but there was a lot of games where I couldn't go. So the only real option, because you had a card, like a physical card, the only real option was give it to someone I know. So say you live near me, and I go, I trust you, here's the card, you go to the game, please bring it back to me, right? Yeah. Or that's it. Like, there's no way of selling that season ticket on a second, or at the time there wasn't, on a secondary market or anything like that, right? So if I can't go, how do I transfer it to somebody else? Whereas if it's on the blockchain,
how do you get it back though?
Well, you just have individual games. So each game would be minted into an NFT. So if you get round to the next round of the FA Cup, for example, you mint that NFT. It costs you cents, or not even that, probably parts of a cent to mint it. And then I transfer that onto you on the blockchain. You've got that ticket. Now, there's two things here. I know who you are. Okay, I might not know your exact name, but I know your wallet address. And there's every chance that wallet address is linked to a centralized exchange or something like that. So the chances are I could probably find out who you are. So if anything goes wrong, I can find out. I could tell Man United that this wallet address, was acting badly at the game, or whatever it may be. Whereas at the moment, there's no way of knowing who sits in what seat, because I bought a season ticket, but if I give it to you and you go to the game and you throw a bottle on the pitch at a player, as far as they're concerned, it's me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So how do you manage that? So you can only then give it to like 10 people.
Why do you think that these big companies are so hesitant to adopt it then? Because people don't all have wallets and stuff like that.
Like the adoption for Man United to say all our tickets are now NFTs. Like, I wouldn't say they wouldn't get any fans, because they would, because of the size of the club. But like, if you're Cheltenham Town, which is my local team,
nobody's okay.
You get 4,000.
That's the friction, isn't it? The complexity of understanding the setting up of the wallet and having it there and transferring.
Absolutely.
If it was easier in the sense that you just, I don't know, because you need the security and everything around it. If it was just like setting up a social media a little bit easier, but then you don't have the security.
And that's the thing. You weigh up all the positives of the kind of decentralization of it, the ability to be self-custody of your own assets, all those different bits and pieces, with the ease of use. And they're really hard to bring those two together.
That's people, isn't it? You have to make it
easy. How do you do that? So, for someone like me who is a crypto geek, like if you launched NFTs, I'd be on it straight away. Yeah. But to a lot of people in the community, they'd probably be like, I don't know what this is. It scares me a little bit. I'm not doing it. So, but just conscious of time, because we've been chatting on for ages, which is great. Yeah. I'm still want to know where the word young comes into all this. Because you don't seem to restrict by age.
No, in the sense that I didn't want to restrict by age, and this, like interpret it the way that you want to.
Yeah.
If you know of Young Presidents Organization, YPO, they're huge, global. They have very strict requirements for you to get in, and you need to show them a certain amount of revenue within your company, certain headcount and stuff like that. They actively target anyone under 40, right? So the way that I initially set out was 21 to 40.
Okay.
But over time, there's certain people outside of that age group. Like, for example, it can be over. And somebody actually messaged me on Instagram last week. She was 18 and she said, I'm struggling to find people that think the same way as me. If you think back to 18, for me, even I was just thinking it's very difficult to find my group of people.
Yeah, you don't want to restrict that.
Yeah, it's very difficult when it comes to the age, because there's people over 40 that I love having in the community. They're amazing. They add so much value. We don't have anyone, per my knowledge, under 24 years old at the moment. 24, I think, is the youngest. And I'd say the most of the density sits between 29 and 32.
Okay.
I would say that's roughly, in my opinion, I think it's about there. We don't have the insight, but just from knowing people. But yeah, I think going back to why I set it up, right, in terms of everything else is a bit too corporate and stiff. And I was just like, the young immediately sets the tone in terms of how we approach stuff.
Yeah.
But Dubai is a different market in the sense that you wouldn't see the crowds of people that you do in a nightclub at home compared to what you would in Dubai. It's very different in that sense, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, and I wouldn't say. I mean, a few people, because especially people in the UK, if I post about, I posted about the event that we spoke at, and people a few people commented on my LinkedIn being like young ? Most people I guess think under 30 when they think of like a young professional.
That's probably Thomas Cook back in the day in the 30 holidays. They've set 18
to 30.
Yeah, you've got to peel it back a bit. I think that has to.
Do you think you would change the word young, or do you think do you?
I initially for my first event we only had the night before we only sold 18 tickets or so. Eventually there was 25 in attendance, which is still very low for us for the social events. And I was on Canva frantically rebranding the night before. I was like, wow, it's all because of the name. We're wrong. We've done it all wrong. So I just changed it to Dubai Professionals. Yeah. I mocked up the whole thing, right? And then in my gut, I knew I had to pursue this before I could actually pull back from it. It hadn't given it enough time to run. But we were messing around with other names, because we want something because Dubai Professionals is just the community holder, right? There's other avenues that we want to go into that we feel that we completely belong in, and we can channel our community there and drive real value to them. So I was thinking, like, what would we call the holding company? Because we want to set up like co-working spaces and then evolve into members clubs and stuff and have our own event space and things like that. So I just don't know where the brand goes from there, really.
Yeah, I'm not a branding person, so I'm probably not.
We're looking at other markets as well, and it's
as in jurisdictionally, or
I was looking at Saudi. I sat down with somebody quite senior within the government there. Realized it would be very difficult to do the branding that we want because the use of Saudi is very difficult there.
So you can't just do Saudi Young Professionals, for example.
Yeah. And
that's a good question, actually. Is that, and we probably do need to wrap up in a minute because I've also got a meeting in not too long. Sure. But is there any issue with using the word Dubai?
Yeah, you have to get approval.
Okay.
You have to get approval.
And
they're more relaxed on it now.
Are you a free zone company?
No, mainland.
Because of the name, or just because you wanted to be?
I didn't look at the technicalities, but I felt uncomfortable with something being so cheap compared to So in my mind, I was like, it just felt too. I just knew the way.
Yeah, what's the catch?
Yeah, there's always a catch, right? I didn't even care. I just saw the price and I thought, doesn't seem right.
Yeah, so you went mainland. Yeah. No, I wondered if there was, because it's probably the same in the UK. Although you can use UK in it, you don't need approval to use UK in the name.
Everything's got London in the name, though.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true. So what's the, we'll wrap up here, but what's the future look like? What's the, I know you mentioned things like the recruitment stuff, but you can't talk too much about that. But what's the plan? What's the vision?
So the way that we see it, ultimately the technology will always underpin what we do. But as we evolve, we want to be the biggest community in Dubai, but focusing on ensuring that we continue to deliver value.
Yeah.
So if you look at the other communities in Dubai, right, I think they've associated themselves with ethnicity in the first instance, like British, Malaysian, or specific industries. Whereas where we are right now, we're only limited, well, as you said, not even age necessarily, but we have one of the biggest addressable markets of all the communities. And that's why I think we've grown at such a pace, because people are like, okay, I fit in there nicely, but also we have all the varieties of industries. And if you're the right person, you need variety to leverage. But what we see ourselves evolving into is hopefully by the end of FY25, we have around 2,000 members. That's the goal at the moment. But we have this amazing technology that really functions well and delivers on the things that we need, such as the instant messaging, the recruitment services, the networking elements, the events, potentially having, back end really good QR code systems so that people can track, but then evolving the lifestyle stuff and really bringing in our other business avenues. So if we launch a co-working space, imagine this was the co-working space. I can say Joe is there. Okay, who is Joe? Click into his profile, really see Joe, and then just say, okay, message, and then say, listen, I've seen that you were interested in this. You've posted about that. I'm coming to the co-working space now. Should we have a chat? And have meeting rooms there, right? It's more, we are building an ecosystem that I really think delivers value on an individual basis, and try and break it down into what that individual actually wants. Because at the moment, it's just a blanket approach, but we need to evolve into understanding what Joe wants from the community.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And that's one interesting thing about co-working is you turn up at a co-working space and you have absolutely no idea who people are, what they're doing, why they're doing it. And if you had to an extent, have to be an opt-in type scenario where you go, I'm happy for my, I'd be quite happy if I was sat in a co-working space for my name and business and whatever to be in like some little database where someone could go, oh, okay, I need to talk to an accountant, or I need to I want to talk to someone about crypto or whatever it may be. I'll go and have a chat with Joe, because otherwise people are like, oh, I don't want to go and disturb you, or I don't want to, do you know what I mean? So actually being able to bring people together like that, I think is interesting. So lots of plans. Good.
Lots to do, lots to get ahead with.
And we briefly mentioned before you quit your job last week.
On Wednesday. I just got to the point in terms of I was living two separate lives, and it was just so difficult, because if I think back, I've always aspired to the role that I had. The money that was being paid was really well, and essentially I was just chasing the paper, right? And I did enjoy parts of what I did, but I was just foreseeing that my future would really just be working and grinding away at this, and not really building a legacy and building something that I can say my decision is directly impacting that person's life. Whereas when you're in consulting, it's like you're part of 1,000 decisions, and then that's the output. And
sometimes people don't even listen to the part that you put together, because
I'll spend days writing up a report, and the guy will just be like, I'll just read the first 5 pages of the exec summary, please. So stuff like this was wearing me down over time, and it's been really difficult, because I left EY thinking that I wanted a new challenge. I was in EY for 3 years, actually 4 and a bit years. Came on to Alvarez & Marsal, which is one of the biggest boutiques in the world for restructuring. They handled the insolvency of Lehman Brothers.
Right.
Really high profile stuff. And just really struggled to get into it. So they didn't acknowledge how big DYP was in the market and the influence it had.
Okay.
And that's what triggered the initial conversation. So I sat down.
In a sense, they didn't believe in you.
Immediately.
But that sums up the business you're working for, right? If they don't even believe in the project that you're building on the side, doesn't really say much about them.
Exactly.
Probably shouldn't say too much badly about them, but
no, they've got some of the best people at what they do, and that's why they deliver the way that they do. But even just going into the office, I was just really feeling, I just had, even my first day working at EY, I remember sending my friend a message on Skype at the time. Said, look around, mate, we're robots.
We're a number.
That's how it felt, because for the last 6 years or so, I've literally just had PowerPoint and Excel and analyzed data and had the output and advised the client, right? And I just don't know if that's the life that I want to, that it doesn't give me fulfillment anymore. I just feel so detached from what that looks like in the future. That doesn't look like what I want. Whereas I think with the right people around DYP, I like the people that you get to meet and stuff through a community is amazing. I've met so many people. Even when I was thinking about quitting my job, right, I had 3 people phone me that I would consider really busy individuals, and they were like, I want to speak to you about your decision because I want to speak through it with you. And like people say in Dubai that, you know, it's very difficult to find genuine connections and everybody's here for themselves. I just think find the right people, honestly. And I found a really group of people that I feel like I can rely on, and they give me the kind of advice that not many people could because they've been on the journey.
Yeah.
So that just gave me a load of confidence in my decision ultimately.
And that's probably a really good piece to end on, is like find that community, find those people that believe in you and you believe in them and trust in them, and yeah, the rest will follow, I guess.
DYP, if you want to join a community, it's for you.
Well, yeah, we'll do the you stole my thunder there, but where can people find you and DYP and all those bits and pieces?
I think just go to DYP in the first instance is the best thing to do. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn. A really good channel for us, as you know, is the WhatsApp. If you go onto our homepage, there's a little icon there to join the WhatsApp. And we're actually launching a TikTok in the next couple of weeks, which I didn't ever think I would. I've never been on there. Uncharted territory for me, but you'll soon see us on there, I hope.
Yeah, nice. Great. Well, we'll link as much as we can in the description. And
Awesome.
really
Pleasure.
enjoyed the chat, mate.
Thanks, man.
Good to see you.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.